Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome here to the library in The Hague. You have all come to see Michael Cunningham. He's already there, but I will ask him on stage later on. First of all, I want to thank the library for being here. The program is a joint program of the City Library in The Hague and the Winternachten Festival, or called Writers Unlimited, since 2 years, I think. In January, the big festival will be there. They organize a festival every year. It will be in January. There are leaflets, I think, here on the tables. Go there because it's wonderful. And I also have to thank the Passaporte, which is a festival and a writer's residence in Brussels. Michael Cunningham is staying there for a whole month. We will ask him why later on. And they were so friendly to give him to us for a day. So thanks for the Passaporte Festival. For people here who don't know everything about Michael Cunningham yet, I will tell a little bit about some of his books and about him. It's short, and then we will come to the conversation. Michael Cunningham is born in 1952. He's the author of the novels A Home at the End of the World, Flesh and Blood, The Hours, winner of the PEN/Faulkner Award and the Pulitzer Prize, Specimen Days. And in 2010, his latest novel, By Nightfall, appeared. And he lives in New York since a very long time. In Dutch, I don't know if there's a book-selling event afterwards. I don't see them yet, but maybe you can have your book signed later on. 5 of his books were translated in Dutch. Huis aan het einde van de wereld. Bloedverwanten, that's Flesh and Blood. De uren, stralende dagen en bij het vallen van de avond. Flesh and Blood is about the Stassos family. It's a typical American immigrants family. Father is Greek, mother is Italian. They get married in the 50s and they are the true American dream. They get rich because Konstantin Stassos builds houses of inferior quality for people who actually cannot afford it. It's very modern again now. They have 3 children, Susan, Billy and Zoe. They have to set this dream through, but none of them really succeeds in that. Susan gets a boy who is very unhappy, Ben. Billy is gay, but doesn't dare to tell it to its very nasty father. And Zoe will have a bastard son, who is also half black, and her best friend is a travestite, and she dies of the disease in the 80s and 90s, AIDS. I wonder how it will go on with the family Stassos now. The Hours is Michael Cunningham's most famous book, filmed with Nicole Kidman, Julianne Moore, Meryl Streep. Probably most of you have seen it, I hope. But we will show a little bit of it later on. The story is in 3 times layers. It's the years between the First and Second World War. Virginia Woolf is wrestling with her life, with her depressions. And in between she writes a novel, Mrs. Dalloway's. The 50s, there the main character is Laura Brown. She's reading Mrs. Dalloway, she's reading the book, and feels her own depression stronger because of reading the book. And in the same time she tries to keep up the American dream for her husband and her little boy, Richie. And then the 3rd layer is Clarissa in the 90s. She's been called Mrs. Dalloway by her best friend Richard. Mrs. Dalloway is giving a party. That element comes back in all the 3 time periods of the book. By Nightfall is about typical New Yorkers, Peter and Rebecca, very successful in the art trade. They're in their 40s, and they are confronted with two younger people, their own daughter and Rebecca's little brother, Mitzi, who is called the misunderstanding, het misverstand. The children don't have ambition in art. And Peter gets into a crisis because of that. What does his life mean? And what does art mean? This question and other questions I'm going to ask Michael Cunningham, and I will ask him to come to stage now. Michael. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, what are you doing in Brussels?
Oh, I have the best deal in Brussels. Let's just start drinking right away, don't you think? Thank you all for coming. I hope that goes without saying. It's such a thrill to see you all here, darling. It's just going to get less and less coherent as the night goes on.
It won't.
There is this fantastic organization, Passaporta, in Brussels, and they maintain an apartment. And they offer it to writers for a month, and they offered it to me this last month, and it's been fantastic. I mean, I got out of New York, which is always a periodic pleasure. I got away from all the people who want to know why I haven't called them more often, why I'm just not a better friend or a better person, and I've just been living in this apartment by myself. I mean, there are days when I don't get out of my underwear and I just write all day.
Oh, that's good. That's the real writing.
I think so. Yeah.
Don't get dressed, write. Yeah. And do you like Brussels?
I do like Brussels.
Yeah?
I do like Brussels. For my purposes.
It's not New York. I mean,
no, well, that's what's so good about it.
If we had a choice, yeah.
Brussels, frankly, is just interesting enough and just uninteresting enough. Mm-hmm. Forgive me, the entire city of Brussels when I say this, but you know, it's kind of quiet. Mm-hmm. It's kind of bourgeois, and so unlike finding myself in, say, Amsterdam or Berlin or Istanbul, as I'm, you know, it's getting to be midnight and I seem still to be in my underwear at the computer, I'm not thinking, but the culture is cracking open out there, but the whole human way of looking at and interpreting the world is being reinvented in some little club or at some reading or somewhere, and I should be out there.
Well, maybe there's a whole world in Brussels that you didn't discover yet.
You know, maybe I'll find, yes, as I'm leaving, I'll find, oh shit, there was that whole underworld in Brussels that I missed. No, but it's been nice. I've been monk-like, and I'm not so monk-like in my New York life. I'm frivolous and prone to distraction.
We will start with some 8 minutes from The Hours, the movie. So maybe you can put in scene 1, if Anton hears me. Yeah.
Let's think.
You greased the pan, Mommy.
I know you greased the pan, sweet one. Even Mommy knows that. This is what we're gonna do. Flour, bowl, sifter.
Can I do it, Mommy?
Can you sift the flour? Yes, you can sift the flour, baby, if that's what makes you happy. Isn't it beautiful? Don't you think it looks like snow? Okay, now, the next thing I'm gonna show you is we measure out the cups.
Mommy, it isn't that difficult.
No, I know it isn't difficult. It's just that I just want to do this for Daddy.
Because it's his birthday?
That's right. We're baking the cake to show him that we love him.
Otherwise he won't know we love him?
That's right.
I got all the stuff. Oh, I'm going right out again. My God, what a zoo. Why do people have to talk about dry cleaning? I mean, what is there to talk about? I bought you some flowers. Where are you? In here. I got someone at work to cover me. I'll be with you all night. Are you all right?
Sure.
I guess you saw Richard.
That's right.
Well, of course. I bet he said, oh, by the way, honey, do you mind? Can I skip the party? Don't worry, he always shows up.
Oh, sure.
In the end. What? Richard miss an award? Chance to talk about his work? I don't think so. He'll show up. You did the seating.
I did.
I don't believe it. Lewis Waters? Is Lewis coming? Richard's Lewis?
He is.
You put him next to me. Why do I always have to sit next to the X's? Is this some kind of a hint, sweetheart? And anyway, shouldn't the X's have a table of their own where they can all X together in exquisite agony? I'm off. Try not to pass out from excitement. Clarissa, it's going to be beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why is everything wrong? Didn't work. Damn it. Didn't work.
Hey, Scott.
Hi, Mrs. Barlow. Mommy, there's someone at the door.
Hello? Hello? Laura?
Hi, Kitty.
Hi, am I interrupting?
Oh, of course not. Come in.
Are you all right?
Why, sure.
Hi, Richie.
Sit down. I've got coffee on. Would you like some?
Please. Oh, look. You made a cake.
I know. Didn't work. I thought it was gonna work. I thought it would work better than that.
Oh, Laura, I don't understand why you find it so difficult.
I don't know either.
Anyone can make a cake.
I know.
Everyone can. It's ridiculously easy. Like, I bet you didn't even grease the pan.
I greased the pan.
All right. But you know, you have other virtues. And Dan loves you so much you won't even notice. Whatever you do, he's going to say it's wonderful. Well, it's true.
Does Ray have a birthday?
Sure he does.
When is it?
September. We go to the country club. We always go to the country club. We drink martinis and spend the day with 50 people.
Ray's got a lot of friends.
Oh, he does.
You both have a lot of friends. You're good at it. How is Ray? I haven't seen him in a while.
Ray's fine. These guys are something, aren't they?
You can say that again. They came home from the war. They deserved it, didn't they? After what they'd been through.
What? did they deserve?
I don't know, us, I guess. All this.
Oh, you're reading a book.
Yeah.
What's this one about?
Oh, it's about this woman who's incredibly... Well, she's a hostess, and she's incredibly confident. And she's going to give a party. And maybe because she's confident, everyone thinks she's fine. But she isn't. So...
Wow.
Kitty, what is it? Is something wrong?
I have to go into the hospital for a couple of days.
Kitty.
Yeah, I have, some kind of growth in my uterus, and they're gonna go in and take a look.
When?
This afternoon. I need you to feed the dog.
Of course. Is that what you came here to ask? What did the doctor say exactly?
It's probably what the trouble's been. About getting pregnant. The thing is, I mean, you know, I've been really happy with Ray. Now it turns out there was a reason. There was a reason I couldn't conceive. You're lucky, Laura. I don't think you can call yourself a woman until you're a mother. Or the joke is, all my life I could do everything. I mean, I could do anything, really. Except the one thing I wanted.
Yes.
That's all.
Well, at least now they'll be able to deal with it.
That's right. That's what they're doing.
That's right.
I'm not worried. What would be the point of worrying?
No, it's not in your hands.
That's it. It's in the hands of some physician I've never even met. Some surgeon who probably drinks more martinis than Ray and...
Oh, Kitty.
I mean, of course I'm worried about Ray.
Come here.
I'm doing fine, really.
I know you are.
I'm more worried about Ray. If anything is not good with this stuff.
Forget about Ray. Just forget about Ray. You're sweet.
You know the routine, right? Half a can in the evening and check the water now and then, and Ray will feed him in the morning.
Kitty, you didn't mind?
What? I didn't mind what?
Do you want me to drive you?
I think I'll feel better if I drive myself.
Kitty, it's gonna be all right.
Of course it is.
Oh, I haven't seen that
No?
in a long time.
Since
No.
years.
Yeah, it's been years, yeah.
What I liked about it is all the colors in it. Which
Oh, you like
they
the
are
lesbian
also,
stuff. Come on.
Well, you know everything about me. No, but
Yeah, it looks amazing.
all the 50s colors
Yeah.
that are also like in Mad Men. They must have read your book and seen this and then kind of copied it, or not?
You know,
I mean,
this, oh, well, I don't know about that.
this
But, you know,
American
the
dream
cinematographer used 3 different film stocks, for, one for each of the 3. There's the 3 stories that take place at different times, and you actually use different film. Or so each of the 3 stories. So the, yeah, there's this kind of like Technicolor thing in the Julianne Moore part that is much more muted and slightly sepia in the Virginia Woolf parts. I love these people.
Yeah.
They're so good at what they do.
This American dream, this idea, which we saw in the movie, like this strong image. Could you explain it to Europe, us stupid Europeans?
Oh, well, let's see about that. Yeah, I think certainly for me, it's hard to be an American and not write to some degree about the American dream. I don't think every American writer is obliged to, but I kind of feel that way. I think in part because, well, you know, you write from your own experience. And my family, we were Croatian immigrants. We had been failing to prosper in Croatia for centuries, really. And
when was this move from Croatia to America?
my parents are second generation. Their parents moved here to Holland. No,
Let's come to Holland.
To Indiana.
Yeah.
And my parents set about inventing a life and a persona that did not in any way imply scary old aunts with mustaches living in little dark apartments with incense and
that's your
bleeding
image
saints.
of Croatia.
That's the fact. Those are my aunts. Those are the people I went to visit.
Yeah.
No, it's not something I'm making up. That was Tita Slava and Tita Zora.
Yeah.
And you know, I think what I'm interested in primarily is not necessarily the American dream per se, as I am something that I think of as a sort of American peculiarity, it may be shared by people in other nations, which is this whole idea that you can invent a person and then become that person. I mean, Walt Whitman, a sort of obscure elementary school teacher until he's almost 40, grows a beard, puts on a hat, starts walking the streets of Manhattan saying, I sing the body electric, and becomes Walt Whitman. Robert Zimmerman, living in the suburbs of outside of Minneapolis, listens to some Woody Guthrie, listens to some this, listens to some that, changes his name to Bob Dylan, and moves to New York and becomes Bob Dylan. I think what I'm interested in really is this notion of self-invention.
But in Flesh and Blood, for instance, when Mary became a real American, but then when she gets into a crisis, then she thinks of herself as an immigrant again.
Well, yeah. The character of Mary in Flesh and Blood understands that she's not quite passing in the very white suburb upper class neighborhood in which she lives. She's not being accepted by the women who are the granddaughters of women who invented themselves. It's
a
all a
generation
question
thing.
of how recently you were invented, and Mary is a little too newly minted for some of these women. They can still sort of whiff the get the scent of the boat off of her, and they turn their backs on her. She hasn't gelled yet. She still feels like she's improvising, and she's in there among women who are more practiced at appearing to be American, because of course everybody in America is really just appearing to be an American. There's not really such a thing as an American. Yeah. I mean, it's not even 300 years old.
No. The baking of the cake, which was very important in this piece that we saw, it's also an important thing in more than one of your books.
I know.
What is it?
I keep writing about cakes. Well, certainly in the hours when I was writing the novel, which became the movie. I knew there would be these three central women. There would be Virginia Woolf on the day when she started writing Mrs. Dalloway, when she, Virginia Woolf, suspected that she was not really an artist, that she was not really destined for anything resembling greatness, that she was just a hysteric and an eccentric, and I sort of focused on the day in her life when she set down the first lines of Mrs. Dalloway, which of course turns out to be a novel that will live forever. Then there's a contemporary version of Mrs. Dalloway played in the movie by Meryl Streep, and in the middle, I had those two characters for the longest time, and it wasn't working out. It didn't feel alive. It just wasn't coming together. And I thought, well, all right. I was about to give it up. The novel wasn't coming together. I was sitting at my computer, sort of wondering whether I should just junk it and start something else. And I had this image in my mind of Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway, my conception of Mrs. Dalloway. And then my mother
came in.
And I thought, oh, Mom, what are you doing in my hallucination? And I thought about that. And, I realized that my mother, like I think certainly many women of her generation, and quite possibly many women even now, was trapped in a life that was too small for her. Had signed on as mother and housewife, and probably could have been the head of a corporation. But she wasn't. She was a wife and a mother. And rather than bust out of that, she became obsessed with doing it perfectly. Everything had to be just so. She could spend half a day looking for cocktail napkins and then come home and regret them because, why did I get a scalloped edge? A straight edge would have been so much better. The germs just stopped at the threshold at a certain point because they realized there was no point in coming into our house. And I got to thinking.
And that's the baking of the cake?
Well, there's another, there's one, yes. I got to thinking about why my mother popped into my mind when I was thinking of Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway. And I thought, okay, if you take two people who happen to be women, and understand that each of them is trying to produce something great, something transcendent, whether it be a book that will last beyond your lifetime, or a cake so perfect and beautiful that it banishes sorrow forever. And if you remove the objects, the goals, if you take away on one hand a great work of literature, and on the other hand a dessert, and just look at the aspiration, just look at the striving, the kind of insistence on producing something more than any human being can produce. It's the same effort. And my mother deserves to be taken as seriously as Virginia Woolf.
Yeah, exactly. In Flesh and Blood, but it's also in your other books, you show the following periods in modern American society. You start with this American dream, then the hippies and the free sexuality comes in with the second generation. That's the generation of the three children. And then the period of AIDS comes in, and the period of the new immigrants and the recession in the 90s. If you work on that, in what period is America now?
Oh, well, you know, just off the top of my head,
Do it.
I would have to say decline.
Decline.
Don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, it's a little hard to live in America and walk the streets of America and not look around and think, well, this is kind of winding down, isn't it? Like the British, like the Ottoman Empire, like the Roman Empire, empires have their lifespans, and I don't think it's looking so good for America right now, frankly. I don't see how the trouble gets fixed.
And is the war in Iraq, or would that be something that you put on that period as a symbol, like AIDS was for the 80s or 90s, or is it something else?
You know, I certainly feel like the war in Iraq.
It has just stopped, I think, a couple of days ago officially.
Yeah, and you know, that was a fabulous victory. I think it robbed America of some ability, whatever last tatters America had of an ability to love itself.
Okay.
Because I think there were two tragedies on 9/11. First, the actual one, and then America's response to that incredible display of sympathy and solidarity from all over the world. And if America had acted graciously, I don't know if the economy would be in any different shape, but I think our sense of our collective morality would be in better shape. And when America's reaction during the reign of George Bush II was aggression and bullying and the decision to bomb the fuck out of Iraq, I think something tore. I think something in America's ability to imagine itself as a decent country ripped in half.
I read yesterday in the newspaper that 25% of the people living in America can't afford the house they are living in anymore.
Oh, well, there's that, yeah.
So there's also this economical problem that is becoming huger and huger. It's
the economy is fucked up. I mean, you know, don't get me. I'm sure people probably don't want to hear about this because they already know it. But yeah, the mortgage crisis is a complete mess. If you are poor, you will probably die. You may very well die of a curable disease because you don't have health insurance. And when anybody, like say our president, tries to even mentions national health care, people go
crazy,
ballistic. The schools are jokes. Don't get me. Stop me. It's really
okay. I will.
Because I'm sure anyone here is as well informed about this as I am.
No, but in Specimen Days, which is probably your most engaged novel, the United States becomes a kind of a wasteland. Nobody can live there anymore. I mean,
Oh, I know. I went into science fiction.
Yeah.
It's in three stories in 3 different genres,
Yeah.
and the last one is a science fiction story set in a post-apocalyptic future, as so many science fiction stories
And it
are.
comes nearer to us, this...
Don't you think? Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Oh, right again.
Yeah. And is there a better world somewhere outside? I know that they have... They found a planet somewhere where there's
They have.
oxygen and
I know.
water.
They're finding inhabitable planets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we all move there and have a better life?
I swear people are talking about that in America. It's a long commute. It's 300 light years.
Okay, but that's a technical problem we should overcome.
But no, we are not making this shit up. They have found, finally, they knew they would. They've just developed the telescopic power to be able to see the planets that are small enough, close enough to their sun, but far enough away to have liquid water and what all the basics for what we think of as life. And you know, people really are talking about, well, maybe we should just declare the Earth to be over.
Yeah.
And
Start
get on space
somewhere else,
buses
again, yeah.
and move to another planet, which actually, you know, I kind of like myself.
Okay,
but it's a long trip.
let's go back to this planet then. When you compare the United States with Europe, what is Europe for you? Is it you go there a lot? You use European literature in your books as well?
I do. I mean, I like Europe a great deal. I mean, I think it's important not to over-romanticize Europe. I think there is an American
we feel we are in
tendency
decline
to
as
think,
well.
to think that America is just an impossible mess and Europe is somehow better.
Why?
If we kind of forget about Berlusconi and kind of forget about that unfortunate thing that happened on the island in Norway and kind of ignore the fact that the economy here is a mess too. No, I feel I have more right to bitch about America, but I don't think, you know, Europe doesn't look that good either, frankly.
No.
Where are we going to go? Other planets, it's a good idea.
Okay,
Don't reject it out of hand. Freeze us. We'll just wake up on another planet.
Yes,
It'll be fine. I'll see you there.
that's a technical problem to come over this
Maybe
time gap.
we could just agree to have this conversation again with everybody here
Yeah?
in 10
Will you
years when we're all on.
10 years, that's fast. It will take another
I know, I'm optimistic.
few hundred years.
Okay,
but
well.
then we can all see each
Yeah.
other there. Last year, you were in Amsterdam and you read a fragment of your new novel, Sleepless.
Oh, right. Yeah, that didn't work out. That didn't become a novel. No. But I have...
You read a part, I don't remember everything of it, but John Coltrane playing the horn, and you heard in the music, you heard, do you love me, do you love me, do you love me? It was kind of a symbol for the artist,
Yeah.
kind of a sign of immortality. I had the feeling you
Do you love me? That is what I hear.
Do you
when
remember
I hear
that
John
writing
Coltrane.
that?
I do, yeah. And it didn't turn out to be a novel, so I started something else. But,
Okay.
you know, I have, though I think we're planning on me reading a very short section from my most recent novel tonight, I have, for the most part, stopped reading from published work. It started to feel like an act. I started to feel like sort of a hack. Here it is. I wrote it 2 years ago. I've been practicing it. Some of you have already read it. Boop, boo, boo, boo. It just was feeling a little dead to me. So I have for about the last year.
But you did reading from it.
I'm sorry.
From the new book, and then it didn't work out to be a new book. So
No, but
it was only there in a reading and not for us to read.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah?
I don't know how the audience feels about it, but yeah. I think the point is
People
for me,
who heard it,
feels
was a unique
more
experience
alive to be reading something that includes a couple of lines I wrote in my hotel room the night before. I'm very much happier, though more nervous, when the people who, God bless them, have come to hear me read are actually sort of part of the formation of it. You know, because, of course, writers and readers are engaged in an intense relationship with tragedy and comedy and sex and jokes. We're just separated in time and space, but I'm very conscious of the fact that what I'm doing for other people. Yeah. And the idea of having other people in the room as I'm sort of trying out something and sometimes crossing it out as I read. Well, I don't know if it's any more fun for the audience, but it's more fun for me.
We will go to the dia, if I may ask Anton again. And then, so we will change subject and then I will ask you something about it. But maybe first you can read now. We are talking about reading. Oh, yeah. And you can all have a look. And Professor Cunningham will tell us what we see in a few minutes. But maybe... No,
I can't see it all that well.
We can walk to it.
Do we have the whole painting?
Yes, we do. You can see Icarus in the right in the water.
Okay, yeah, I'm just.
But take it easy. Just read.
Why don't I read a passage? Thank you.
So he is reading from By Nightfall.
And this is a section toward the end of the novel. The novel concerns a man who deals in art, a man who buys and sells art and is beginning to be disillusioned first by the art business, which is very much a business at this point, a multi-billion-dollar business, right up there with, tires and shoes. And then beginning to be disillusioned by art itself, by what people are producing by way of art. I don't know if any of you read about Damien Hirst's decision to show these dot paintings in every single Gagosian gallery around the world. Talk about that. The rest of the day passes somehow. By 9:15, the show's been hung. Tyler, Branch, and Carl have gone home. Peter stands in the middle of the gallery with Uda and Victoria. It's good. Uda says it's a good show. Arrayed around them on the gallery's walls and floors are 5 of Victoria's superheroes. The black man in the overcoat, a middle-aged woman searching her purse for change to feed a parking meter, a sharp-faced, portly young woman emerging from a bakery with a little white bag in her hand, her lunch bagel, no doubt. A ratty-looking Asian kid, 12 or so, whizzing along on a skateboard, and a Hispanic girl pushing a double stroller in which both of her twins are bawling mightily. The videos play simultaneously as the opening of Beethoven's Ninth booms over and over from 3 discrete black speakers. The worshipful merchandise is on the shelves, the t-shirts, the action figures, the lunch boxes, and the Halloween costumes. This is an artist who just chooses citizens at random, films them, and then treats them as superheroes and produces a line of products based on them. It's okay, right? Victoria asks. Well, that's more than okay, Peter tells her, though that's what he'd say to any artist. Time to turn it all off, douse the lights, and go home. The curators are coming tomorrow, along with a few of the gallery's more prominent clients. The Historian Art Forum comes out early next week. Blessings on you, Victoria, in your art world ascension. If I do manage to nail down Rupert Groff, maybe you won't leave me after all. Try to care about it. Do your best to act as if it matters. What do when you're no longer the hero of your own story? You shut down for the night and go home to your wife, right? You have a martini, order dinner. You read or watch television. You are Bruegel's tiny Icarus, drowning unnoticed in a corner of a vast canvas in which men till fields and tend sheep. Uda says, and why don't we get some dinner someplace? Can't really, not tonight. Can't sit in a restaurant and talk the talk, not even with the sweet and self-effacing Victoria Wang. He says, oh, why don't you two go? To Victoria, he adds, I've been a little sickish lately. I have to be very brilliant tomorrow with all your clamoring fans. How could you balk at that? Uda gives him the teacherly look. Should he be excused? She says, we can just get something quick and sleazy, you know. I'm quick and sleazy, Peter answers. Really? Well, the big drunken dinner the night of the opening. I need to go home to bed now. If you say so, Uda answers. Off with you then, Peter says. I'm going to stay here for a few more minutes. I'd like to have a little more time alone with the show. How can anyone balk at that? Uda and Victoria get their coats and stand with Peter at the door. Victoria says, thanks for everything, Peter. You're great. Thank you, Victoria, for being a kind and decent person. Funny how the simple virtues matter. Uda says, call me if you need to, all right? Of course I will. She squeezes his hand. Thank you, Uda, and good night. So here he is, alone with 5 ordinary citizens passing through brief interludes of their regular days as the London Symphony Orchestra negotiates over and over and over the opening strains of the Ninth Symphony. Beethoven loops on and on. How have these people been rescued and disappointed? What will happen to them? What's happening to them now? Nothing much, probably. Errands and trudging work hours in school for the boy, everybody's nightly television, or something else. Who knows? They do, of course, each of them carry within them a jewel of self. Not just the wounds and the hopes, but an innerness, what Beethoven might have called the soul. That self-ember we carry. Simple fact of aliveness, all snarled up with dream and memory, but other than dream and memory. Other than the moment, crossing a street, leaving a bakery, that minor infinitude, the private universe in which you have always been and will always be buzzing along on a skateboard or looking for coins in the bottom of your purse or going home with your fussing children. What did Shakespeare say? Our little lives are rounded with a sleep. Peter would love to sleep right now. Sleep and sleep and sleep. Or cry. Well, crying would be good, might be good, cleansing, but he's dry inside. What he feels more nearly resembles indigestion than it does despair. He is a poor, funny little man, isn't he? He lingers a little with this show, which will sell or not sell, which will come down again and be replaced by another show. Groff if he's lucky, Lochte if he's less lucky. Not that Lochte is a booby prize, those painstakingly intricate little paintings of Calcutta. Peter does love them. He loves them enough, and really. Although Lochte isn't a sensation, small paintings just don't sell the way big ones do. It would be a relief not to have to bump him to make room for Groff. Peter could continue to feel honorable that way. He could live on as a second stringer, respected, but not feared. Get Groff and he graduates, maybe, to the first rank. Failed to get Groff, and really, would he blame Groff for going with a bigger gallery? And he settles, quite possibly for good. He hasn't been up and coming for almost a decade now. Into a career of determined semi-defeat, a champion of the overlooked and the almost but not quite. It would be good to sleep here, right here on the gallery floor, as 5 random strangers live over and over again through brief interludes of what are by now their unremembered pasts. Yeah, time to shut them down, turn off the music, kill the lights, and go home. And yet he remains. This may not be the great art, but it's perfectly good art, and he is consoled by it. He is accompanied by it, and it will never feel as immaculate as it does tonight before the shoppers come to look it over. He picks up one of the action figures, the black man with the battered briefcase. The figure is intentionally shoddy. It's painted on eyes slightly off-kilter. Its skin a lifeless cocoa color. Its suit indifferently made of a shiny gunmetal gray synthetic. Idolatry tends to involve demolition, doesn't it? Even those polychromed, glass-eyed Virgin Mothers, even those gilded Buddhas. Flesh, the true and living thing, trumps every effort at representation. What artist would be likeliest to render Peter now? It'd have to be Francis Bacon, wouldn't it? One of those pink, fleshy, middle-aged male nudes in tortured repose. And he'd actually imagine himself in bronze. He'd been in that vein. Banging on a tub to make a bear dance when we would move the stars to pity. It's something, though. It isn't nothing to have a tub to dance to. Not if you're a bear.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
About the painting, no,
Ah.
please.
Oh, put him away. Oh.
Could you please show the painting again, Anton? Well, I will show you what you see whenever Anton has got it back. Yeah, there it is. You see Breugel, Icarus, and Icarus, of course, wants to fly to the sun, and then he falls into the water. So on the right, you see this very small figure lying in the water, and that's Icarus. Yeah. Do you see him? Should I point him?
Would you?
Yeah.
Would somebody point him out? Thank you, sir.
There he is.
There he is. Uh-huh.
So, Professor Cunningham,
Well,
what do we see here?
I think what is remarkable about this painting is probably pretty obvious. It's Icarus. It's one of history, of mythology's biggest stars. I mean, you know, it's like the Angelina Jolie of mythology. You don't get much bigger than Icarus, the boy who flew too close to the sun and his wings melted and he fell to earth. We have been telling that story to one another for millennia. And along comes Bruegel and says, well, there's Icarus in that tiny little corner, unnoticed by the people who are going on about their daily lives. He could matter less to the men spinning and sailing and trading in the town over there. And it is, as far as I can tell, one of the earliest artistic insistences on the, not just on the relative insignificance of Icarus. I don't think that's really the point. Rather, the point is the significance of the people whom history doesn't remember at all.
Yeah.
The center of the painting is the guy in the red shirt, and no one knows who he is.
Yeah.
We don't tell the tale of him.
Those are the ordinary people, and the artists are the one who strive, who want to reach the sun.
I guess you could
But
say
they're
that the
also the
artists are those people.
losers.
But yeah. I think
In your book, you call the real artists are also the losers. They're the ones who earn the less money off all the whole art scenery or.
oh, I've done pretty well.
Well, you okay? The ordinary artist.
Yeah. Well, no, I know. I guess
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about romanticizing the artist and the suffering of the artist and the. But there's lots to say about that. I guess what I would like to take a minute to talk about is Gustave Flaubert.
Okay, do that.
Who expected Flaubert on this on this lovely night? I feel like this fantastic painting,
Which is in Brussels, by the way. Did you see it? The original
Yeah, I did
in
see
Brussels.
it. Yeah, I did. Oh, it's amazing. This painting prefigures by quite some time this tiny little insignificant Icarus disappearing unnoticed under the waves, what I consider to be one of the seminal works of art, well, let's just say in a long time, which is Madame Bovary. This will relate. I'm sure many of us have read it, probably a few of us, some of us have not. Madame Bovary is simply the story of the life and eventual demise of one Emma Bovary, who is entirely without heroic qualities, or really even anything you could call a virtue. She's trivial and not very smart and ungenerous and prone to romantic fantasies and vain. She's not even a good mother to her child. She is an essentially crappy little person. And Gustave Flaubert sat for 12 years thinking about her and looking at her so intensely and took her so seriously and didn't nicen her up.
Maybe he filled her up with some romantic feelings.
Well, I think it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call them romantic feelings, but the point is she lives and dies as a crappy little person. She was probably not as virtuous as that unknown man in the painting. And by looking at her so carefully, by taking her so seriously, Flaubert made her obviously an immortal figure of literature, right up there with Icarus, and in so doing showed us forever that if Emma Bovary can become a great figure of literature, then anybody can. Then there are no lesser lives. There are only inadequate ways of looking at them. And ever since Flaubert wrote Madame Bovary, we have come to understand that every single person you pass on the street, every single person in that painting, including Icarus and the guy weaving, is an epic hero of his or her own epic story.
So that's what art does.
Oh, it's what some art does. It's what some of the art I like best does, which is essentially insist that there is nothing and no one ordinary in the world.
Or everybody.
Yeah. That we're all gods and heroes, and unfortunately most of us are not chosen by Flaubert as a subject of a novel. But it's certainly something that has guided me as a writer. This attempt to.
It's also Peter. Sometimes he thinks he's a genius, and sometimes he thinks he's a very ordinary person. It's a paradox.
Yeah,
that you have in most of your characters. You have this paradox.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want my characters, ideally, to be at least as smart as my readers. and to be able to understand that they are being ridiculous, that they are acting foolishly, that they may even be sabotaging their own lives. Because, of course, to me, one of the great human mysteries is the fact that we kind of know we're being ridiculous. We know we're being foolish. We know we're ruining our own lives, and we do it anyway. And I think novels should reflect that. I'm less interested in novels that sort of set up characters as dopes and dupes, and I, the writer, and you, the reader, are smarter than these people, and so we're just going to watch them burn their houses down, and then we get to think, well, we wouldn't do that. Yeah. I'm not so much interested in that.
We will just show a few more minutes of the movie, of the hours, and then, so maybe you can put in the second scene, Anton.
I needed some light. I needed to let in some light.
What are you doing?
I had this fantastic notion. I took the Xanax and the Ritalin together. It never occurred to me.
Richard!
Don't come near me! It seemed to me I needed to let in some light. What do you think? I cleared away all the windows.
All right, Richard, do me one simple favor. Come sit.
I don't think I can make it to the party, Clarissa.
You don't have to go to the party. You don't have to go to the ceremony. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You can do as you like.
But I still have to face the hours, don't I? I mean, the hours after the party, and the hours after that.
You do have good days still. You know you do.
Not really. I mean, it's kind of you to say so, but it's not really true.
Are they here?
Who?
The voices.
Oh, the voices are always here.
And it's the voices that you're hearing now, isn't it?
No. Mrs. Dalloway, it's you. I've stayed alive for you. But now you have to let me go.
Richard?
No, wait. Tell me a story.
What about?
Tell me a story from your day.
I got up.
Yes?
And I went out and, I went to buy flowers. Like Mrs. Dalloway in the book, you know?
Yes.
And it was a beautiful morning.
Was it?
Yes, it was so beautiful. It was so fresh.
Oh, fresh, was it?
Yes.
Like a morning on the beach?
Yes.
Like that?
Yes.
Like that morning when you walked out of that old house and you were 18 and maybe I was 19.
Yes.
I was 19 years old and I'd never seen anything so beautiful. You, coming out of a glass door in the early morning, still sleepy. Isn't it strange? Most ordinary morning in anybody's life. I'm afraid I can't make it to the party, Clarissa.
The party. Doesn't matter.
You've been so good to me, Mrs. Dalloway. I love you. I don't think two people could have been happier than we've been.
Wow. Richards is also Icarus, isn't he? Falling out of the window.
Yeah, those wings melted very quickly. Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, wow.
You haven't seen it in a long time.
No,
You said, yeah.
no, I was
Yeah.
shocked.
What did he try, Richard? Did he try to fly or?
Yes, yeah, it's funny, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I mean, there's a scene just like this in the book, and I talked to Stephen Daldry, the director, and David Hare, the writer, and we agreed that Richard wasn't diving down to the ground. He was flying. Mm-hmm. I mean, he knew where he was headed, but I think there's a difference between jumping down and trying and failing to jump up. We actually wanted a shot of Ed just sort of suspended, which would have involved water, and he wouldn't do it. He'd had a bad experience with water. He wouldn't get in the water. It's so fun. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other subject. All the things that don't get in the movie.
But that you know of, you saw them.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just going to throw this in quickly. They
Yeah.
actually intercut that scene. They found 3 18-year-olds who were kind of perfect, beautiful, young Meryl, Ed Harris, and this third character, put them in bathing suits, made them spend the day shooting a scene together on a beach in January. It was freezing. And these kids were in little tiny bathing suits, but there was going to be a moment when we just saw that past. And then it felt too hokey, and those kids didn't get in the movie.
Poor kids. It was their moment of fame. So now they're just 3 ordinary kids, and they didn't become artists.
No, we know those people as Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
But what about this new generation that you write a lot about generations. In By Nightfall, it's Peter who really adores Mitzi.
Right.
Mitzi, who is 20 or something.
Yeah,
a
20
bit
plus,
older,
25-ish, yeah.
25, and he doesn't want anything. He doesn't want to be an artist. He just wants to be. Is that why Peter adores him so much? Because he has
partly. It's Mizzy's detachment. It's his aura of squandered youthful promise. But I want to make it very clear that that's that character. It is one of my deepest ambitions not to grow older. cursing the younger generation.
Okay, I would have imagined
What
that.
a
Yeah.
terrible mistake that would be for anyone to make.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mizzy is a problematic figure, based on people I've known.
But in Flesh and Blood, Jamal is the only grandson who is still alive in the end of the book. He's like the new generation. The mixed race child of mixed sexuality,
of a
mixed
woman
color.
who just sort of got knocked up on a date by a black guy, and now his mother has died of AIDS, and he is being raised by his uncle's boyfriend, and his grandmother.
Yeah.
Just another American family.
Yeah, a new American family.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the world is full of new families, not just American families, but there's so many unorthodox families out there, and whatever that means. I think for me, as a gay man who has so far survived the AIDS epidemic, I saw, in the early days of it, I saw guys who would call their parents in the Midwest and say, Mom and Dad, I have two things to tell you. I'm gay, and I have AIDS. Click. And some mothers and fathers came through, but a lot of them didn't. And I watched people you wouldn't think of as capable of such things. I watched little disco boys in tiny little cutoff shorts. I saw old guys who did drag in sad clubs on the weekends rally and do the things that I had been told growing up only your family would do for you.
Yeah.
They made sure the meals were delivered, made sure the bills got paid. When it was time to go to the hospital, they made sure that the mean nurse was off the shift and a better nurse got on. When it was time to plan the funeral, they planned the funeral. They went to the funeral.
You saw a kind of new families growing.
I did.
Yeah.
And I saw them hang together and do the things that I was always told only your biological family would do for you. And I saw them fail. I mean, I don't want to idealize the alternative family. They're just as fucked up as any family, but they're out there, and really, I just want them to be in a book or two.
Yeah.
I don't have some kind of point I want to make about the superiority of alternative families. It's all families, but I want these families to be in a couple of books.
You wrote, I don't exactly remember in which of your book, that irony and even cynicism is a sign of adulthood.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
I can't have meant it.
So I thought it means that the young generation is not ironic or not cynical. I mean, they have their whole life in front of them. They have to live it.
Well, on one hand, I grew up in Los Angeles, which means I spent a childhood starved for irony. I didn't hear irony until I went to college. I didn't know what it meant at first. And so, whoa, this is great. These people are cool and cynical, and they sneer at things. That's kind of fun, isn't it? And, as I've gotten older, my fondness for irony has diminished somewhat. And I find myself feeling more and more in this very wry, cynical, ironic era that the real risk is a kind of earnestness.
Yeah.
Is an assertion that you actually give a shit about something. And you don't feel above it, and you don't feel like it's ridiculous.
And you feel compassion with the ordinary people, the ones in your book and outside.
I feel compassion with the people I write about who might appear ordinary if you didn't look at them closely enough.
Yeah. Maybe the audience has some questions. I have a microphone here.
Please, extraordinary people. I have to say that I know it's sort of, it can be difficult to ask a question in a biggish room like this, but in fact, nothing is more satisfying for me than to actually get to talk to people who read books. I don't get to do this very often. I mostly just sit alone in a room.
Hello,
Please,
Mike.
hey.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You talk in the hours, obviously there's a reference to Mrs. Dalloway, to Virginia Woolf, and tonight you've talked a lot about various other writers, Walt Whitman, and other artists, and Flaubert. Mm-hmm. Are there other writers who you see as your main influences, either current writers or?
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Could you give us a few?
Writers.
Just.
Yeah. Well, this is a great chance to throw some attention in the way of certain actual living writers who I love. There's an American writer named Dennis Johnson who I think is just extraordinary, especially this new novel of his called Train Dreams. There's a young Asian American woman named Julie Atsuko who wrote a book called The Buddha in the Attic that I think is remarkable. I'm so sorry that David Foster Wallace chose to end his life when he did, but this unfinished novel he left behind called The Pale King is amazing. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of writers who not only inspire me, but keep me going. They remind me that, oh right, Dennis Johnson is that good. You better up your game a little bit. I just have to ask: has anybody read? I guess it's either in Danish or Norwegian, this vast novel called Mein Kampf. I'm just really curious about it. Yeah. Have you read it? Yeah, okay, well, call me up, tell me what you think about it. I'm really interested in it.
You're going to, no? I'm going to read it. Okay, so there's nothing to tell about it. Any more questions?
I really loved Specimen Days.
Thank you.
And we're talking about ordinary people, but one character that really stuck with me was the lizard alien. And I wonder whether you dealt with any sort of questions of anthropomorphism with that, whether it was a problem at all.
Yeah, this is the third and final section of a novel of mine called Specimen Days, which is a science fiction story in which a man who was a sort of a hybrid of human and android, a sort of discontinued experimental model, falls into a kind of love with a lizard-like woman from another planet. Because in this imagined future of mine, we have finally made contact with an alien civilization. And the science fiction I grew up on almost always involved alien civilizations that were incredibly advanced, that had domed cities made of gold and telepathy and all kinds of wonders. And I said, well, no, okay, my first contact in this world is with a planet even more poor and miserable than ours. And what happens once contact is made is the Earth is flooded with these extraterrestrials who just want a better life, and they end up doing all the work that Earth people don't want to do, like sweeping the streets. Yeah, it was really a challenge to try to produce a being who would feel legible, but not just like a human with green skin. I don't know if I succeeded, but it was really interesting to try that.
And are you aware that there is a Czech novel by Karel Čapek in the 30s about a lizard who are living in the sea and who are actually taking over all kind of work from the human beings, and in the end they take over the world. It's a famous.
No,
Czech.
I missed that.
Yeah.
One. See, I stole from him without even realizing it.
So that's the way literature works.
Yeah. There's no new ideas. There's only new ways of telling the same old stories. Yeah.
Any more questions, please? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the hours. Honestly, it's the only book.
Thank you.
It's the only book I read, and okay, I have a relationship with the movie, and because for me it's like a cult movie, you know. So it's a movie that I can see many times, depending on my state of mind and how I feel. I look for a special, you know, scenes of the movie. And actually, there are more people that use the movie that way. And I found it here in the Netherlands, also in Spain, where I was born. And there are people reading the book and trying to understand and following the characters. So I have many questions about the hours, but one very important for me, to have an answer from you as the writer, is this love possible? You know, because in the history there is this like troubled people, very talented people, and there is always this frustration where they try to share their feelings with somebody, and or either it's not the time, or they are in a kind of depression, or they don't find the right people.
Right.
This frustration is, I think, is all the time in the movie.
Right.
So is love really possible?
Is love possible?
Because what I read about you is that actually you are okay.
Oh, well, we'll talk after. Yes, it is. Next question. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that storytellers, whether we're talking about novelists or movie makers or even the traveling bards of ancient Greece, almost always tell stories about the human difficulties. Not because that's the only story, but because that's the dramatic story. Because an invitation to sit down with me so that I can tell you a story about some very happy people who stayed happy all the time and died simultaneously in their sleep is not a story you really want to hear. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I think maybe to get a little more highfalutin about it, I feel like stories, whether they're films or novels or myths, may be more useful to us in our difficult times than they are in our happiness. I think we can handle our happiness pretty well on our own. I think part of what we turn to art for, part of what I turn to art for, is a sense of company in my periods of sorrow. A reminder that other people have gone through this too. A picnic with the person I love most in the world and our faithful dog, I'm fine with. I'm right there. My mother dying of cancer, I need a little more help with. And that's, for me, part of where a story comes in. I don't mean that's the only point of stories, because of course stories also delight and entertain, but I guess for me, the important stories, not just the fun stories, because believe me, I love TV. I watch horribly. I watch Project Runway. I am not too pure for entertainment, but the great stuff I look for I look to for more than that. And I don't know if you know the writer Alice Munro. She's Canadian, and I revere her. And my mother was very sick. It was about 10 years ago, and we didn't know, we knew what was going to happen. We didn't know when it was going to happen. And I had a feeling, I was back home in LA, and my poor, exhausted father and sister and aunt had gone to bed. We were at home. And I just thought, you know, I'm going to stay up. I have a feeling I'm going to stay up. And I needed something to read. And I picked up a book of stories by Alice Munro. And as I picked them up, I thought, this might be what I'm reading when my mother passes away, which proved to be true. And it didn't seem grotesque to be reading that writer at that moment. It felt right. And I think there's so many kinds of stories, but a story that can stand up like that is my idea of one hell of a good story. Now, someone has to ask at least one more question because we can't end on such a dark note.
Oh, yes.
I'm so much fun. I don't need to talk about dying mothers all the time, really.
Ask something about television then.
Well, no, I'm a big
Okay.
Project
All
Runway
right.
fan, but I have a question for
Yeah.
you that I've always wanted to ask. Is there a professional courtesy amongst writers? Will you tell us who you think's an overrated hack?
You know. Oh, God, I would love to. Yeah, I can't. Let me just say that there are writers I think of as overrated hacks. And maybe you'll pull me aside and I'll whisper it in your ear, but I just, you know, I feel like, yes, professional courtesy, it's the sense that if you write novels, the understanding that it's really hard to write even a not very good novel. And I guess as a sort of corollary, I feel like anybody who creates anything, even if it isn't very good, and even if it turns out to be weirdly praised and profitable, still outranks anybody who criticizes anything. The worst writer still beats the best critic. And we'll talk after.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Maybe you want to sign if you have your books with you. There is a bookshop over there. It wasn't there in the beginning, but now it is. So please buy books. And Michael, thank you very much for this wonderful